Hello, community, IOST community to be exact. This is another episode of the IOST podcast. I think this is episode 5. We're coming at you on YouTube as well now as iTunes. We finally got iTunes to take us a little bit seriously. Thanks, iTunes. But yeah, episode 5. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing well, man. It's a beautiful Thursday right now as we're recording this week. So a little later than normal, but we had the giveaway running, some other stuff going on.
We did have the giveaway. The reason for the podcast being released on Thursday is the fact that Mike wasn't in town. What were you doing?
I was in Dallas, man. Me and Zach Lee were getting some things done in Dallas, taking some meetings, some phone calls, and eating a lot of good food. We got some barbecue, some fried chicken.
Did you?
Yeah, dude, that's Southern eating.
Cool. I'm a Cowboys fan. You know that. I'm
Yeah.
down there all the time.
We don't hold that against you.
Yeah, whatever. All right. Well, we have a cool episode for you guys today. We have the giveaway competition that was just announced live on our YouTube, as well as obviously iTunes accepting us. So now you can get us on those Apple Podcasts. We have the Boston Meetup that is tonight, and then we're going to go into topics. So it's going to be about the quarterly contributions, a Berm Protocol and Project Pegasus announcement, the Oasis article that you did, my DAP tier list, as well as we're going to talk a little bit about token price, and then we're going to finally outro with the New York City blockchain week that's happening in like 2 weeks.
Absolutely. Let's get right into it.
Right into it. All right, cool. So the first thing, obviously, that we wanted to talk about was that giveaway competition. We announced the 2 winners. Do you have the 2 winners right in front of you?
I do, yeah. So as a reminder, we gave away 30,000 IOST worth in the giveaway there across Telegram and Twitter. So Telegram winner got 15,000 IOST worth, and the Twitter winner got the same. So Telegram winner was Matt Sci Analyst, and the Twitter winner was Indigo Bunting _3. So we've reached out to them. We reached out to them yesterday, Wednesday. We haven't heard back from them, so stay tuned. Keep your DMs open. If we don't hear back from them really within the next 12 hours now, we're going to end up picking different winners. So stay tuned. These aren't for sure. Matt, Indigo Bunting, make sure you reach out to us. You can grab your award.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had a ton of people actually enter the Twitter and Telegram. The guy who won, Matt Sci Analyst, who won the Telegram award, actually had to compete with 27 other people, which is actually great odds.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Indigo Bunting won out of 650. So congratulations to you guys. You know, Mike had said, when we were live that we're going to do these competitions a lot. I don't know at what intervals, but we're going to continue to do these giveaways. I think they're a really cool thing for the community and obviously for the lucky winners.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe something like at least every quarter. The first one went really smooth so far. We got some good winners, it looks like. Got some, building the community. So yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we have obviously the announcement that we are on iTunes. So if you want to find us in Apple Podcasts, just search Sutler Ventures, the IOST podcast. We show up on there in that search. So if you guys want to, please subscribe to that episode, to this channel.
Yep.
In this sense. So yeah, we're on there. Boston Meetup.
Yeah. So Boston Meetup. It should be tonight. It'll depend on when we get this out. But it's happening Thursday at 7 p.m. Block Venture Coalition, our team and partners under Sutler that we announced a handful ago, Beam Privacy and a handful of other kind of groups or organizations are putting on this really casual meetup. So if you're in the Boston area, you're free tonight at 7 p.m. Swing by. I know there's a few dozen people that have RSVP'd already. Great way to network, to meet some people in IOST. If you're a developer, if you're a college student, somebody potentially looking for resources through IOST or funding or something like this, right? You have an idea. Great way to go and meet the Block Venture Coalition guys, who are really going to be integral in that process for Sutler Ventures.
So Tyler's up there. Is Philip going as well?
I'm not sure if Philip will be there. I know Matt's there. So there's a handful of folks there. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we went to the Beam Privacy meetup at CMU.
Yeah,
Carnegie Mellon.
Yep.
Yeah, that was actually really good. A ton of people there. It was like blockchain. It was like the blockchain group at CMU. There was I think 40 students there.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Some professors there as well. There should be some food and grub, so you get a free meal out of it.
Yeah, I think a lot of them stole that Chipotle up before we could even get any. Yeah. But yeah, that's gonna be Thursday. I'm getting this episode out today.
I hear you.
So It's going to happen. All right, so we'll jump into the topics now. Obviously, the Q1 contribution reports came out. Sutler Ventures was number one. If you hadn't heard already, we were in that tier 1 ranking. So thank you to the community, but we really worked hard to get ourselves into that tier 1 ranking so that we could bring a lot to the ecosystem. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I mean, I would just second that, right? Like, it's been really since January since we've been working on this, communicating with IOST, communicating with Ray and Jimmy and Ben, and making sure that, certainly the effort that we put into this can bring something beneficial to IOST. We did that in that kind of first 22-day window that was considered the first Q1 contribution rewards. So, if you're looking at the rewards you're getting in there less, that's why, because it's a 22-day window. We're going to keep rolling, as always, right? Bringing resources to the ecosystem, wallets, exchanges, funding, right? Developers, all this fun stuff. So we got a lot planned for the next 90 days. That second quarterly contribution window will be a little over 4x what you receive now. And you better damn well believe we're going to be in that tier 1 again. So.
Absolutely. So there were actually 5 categories. We kind of covered this in our, thank you to the community video that we did. But there were 5 categories. I believe we were selected as a community development.
Yeah.
Was it community development? But we did our best to actually go through all of those categories to see how we could bring value. So we were producing content. We were actually creating integrations and bringing people into the ecosystem. We were doing these meetups, event meetups. That was another category. And DAPs. And I think DAPs are something that we are going to be focusing on in Q2 and Q3. What are your plans there?
Well, I think right now what's happening with DAPs is that the kind of necessary integration or infrastructure, whatever you want to call it, for IOST to kind of move into that DAP community is happening, right? We talked to DAP.com a little bit. I know DAP Radar is on the way, right? So kind of getting the word out about IOST is number one. As that finishes up here, through ICO Alert, through Sutler Ventures, we're always working with new projects. So we're pushing IOST as a major protocol to a lot of these projects who haven't picked their kind of home base or home blockchain, if you will, assuming they're, an application layer project there. So, all things work out. Hopefully we should have some really awesome dApps that we're bringing over to IOST here over the next 1 to 3 quarters.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll move on to the next article here. It's going to be the Berm Protocol and Project Pegasus announcement. Now, Berm, obviously, we have some history with. We've talked with Ray. Dimitri's actually been to the offices in New York, Berminal offices. So how are Berm and Berminal, and the whole protocol in general, how did they all kind of mesh together?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It can be confusing, right? So essentially, there is one kind of base layer protocol called Berm, right? The Berm Protocol, which, if you look at the Medium post that they sent out, Berm Protocol is being described as the consensus of information distribution, right? And I like this kind of broader approach where they have, this kind of 10,000 or 30,000 feet level with the Berm Protocol, where they can then build application layers off of that, and they can integrate the IOST blockchain, right? So at the base layer, you've got the IOST blockchain, you've got the Berm Protocol that interacts with that, and then you've got the application layers that the Berm team can build on top of the Berm Protocol. So Berm Protocol is kind of that, the kind of base of the tree, right?
Okay.
The branches right now are Berminal, the app, which is the news app. And then Bermy, which is probably the more popular of the two, which is basically like a TikTok video style app that's really blowing up, from what I can tell, in South America, parts of Asia.
They were like a top 5 app on the Apple Store here in, I forgot what countries, but definitely some Asian countries.
Yep.
They're 100%.
Turkey was one of them.
So how I understand IOST is scalable, and that's one of the reasons IOST was created, right? But how are they going to be able to handle? Are there going to be off-chain transactions, and then certain transactions are going to be on-chain? How is that going to work when they do get eventually implemented into the IOST protocol?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? With this announcement, you can tell that they're working on it, right? So the Berm team isn't just kind of sitting back now that they've got this announcement where the airdrops are going to be coming. That was a big announcement through what they're calling Project Pegasus. So as long as you hold a certain number of IOST, probably about 100 or 1,000, you're going to get airdrops of Berm tokens. Past that, how it's going to work on chain, I don't think we've seen anything yet from the Berm team or from Jimmy. But one thing I do know is that in the latest information on kind of a future roadmap from Jimmy, one of the things that he did talk about was second layer scaling solutions, i.e. sidechain. So good point. You might see that. You might see kind of a portion of them existing on chain or a portion existing off chain or all off chain. Oasis and whatever the rebranded name for Oasis is going to be a big part of Berm, I'm sure. So a lot of details still to uncover. So
Project Pegasus is essentially the airdrop that's happening. Is that what I'm gathering?
Yeah, it's there seems to be like IOST really likes to kind of put project names to things.
Yeah.
So it's a big airdrop. It's a multi-year airdrop. It answers the question for us of, hey, how is the kind of the largest project within IOST going to interact with the community, right? We didn't know if we were going to get an ICO or an IEO or an airdrop or whatever. So that first biggest question is answered. You're going to get your Berm tokens for free, which is always nice. But past that, it'll be interesting to see.
So as far as qualification goes, it says to qualify for Berm airdrops, all you need to do is hold the minimum qualifying IOST with partner wallets and exchanges supporting the airdrops. So I would probably say Token Pocket, Kobo Wallet, probably all of the wallets that are out there now that have partnered with IOST. If you have, IOST in those wallets, you should be able to get the Berm airdrops. But obviously, more announcements will be to come.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll get some dates on when those airdrops will happen, what the minimum number is, if it's 1,000 or 100 or whatnot, and we'll certainly get some info from exchanges too. BIS will obviously be on there. We'll see if Binance or Huobi or some of these others are helping with that snapshot and delivering those tokens.
So you've been getting Berm from using Berminal, correct?
Yeah.
Is Berm's not currently trading?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Yeah, not currently traded. I know that's on the horizon for Berm. They want to get it on exchanges. They're smart kind of with timing. I would guess as the market really kind of fully turns, we start to see that.
So you're being rewarded in tokens for what you're doing on the Berminal, or Berminal app. What exactly is the utility of that token? Is it just as kind of a rewards incentive?
Correct. Yeah. So right now, as you see it on both Berminal and Bermy, as far as I know, it's a way. Essentially, the utility is you spending your time to either number one on Berminal, vote bearish or vote bullish on the article.
Okay.
You can also do things like predict the price of Bitcoin and share it on Twitter, right? But you're earning Berm tokens for those actions. On Bermy, you earn them just for watching the videos.
Got it.
So, potentially we see something down the road with Berm as these airdrops are happening and as exchanges are happening where, you can do more with the Berm tokens, like, use them to buy gift cards to big retail sites.
Got it.
There are all different options that they can use. BNB is probably the best example to go and look and say, hey, look at all these things that you can integrate.
Awesome. Well, we'll move on to the next article here. After talking about Berminal, we want to move into Oasis. I know you kind of touched on it there, but you did this article on the Sutler Ventures blog. We pushed it out on our Twitter, on all of our social media. Now, we have to get into the rebrand that actually is occurring before Oasis even comes out. Why do you think they chose to rebrand before the actual, project got launched?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not sure.
What's your best guess?
They didn't like the name, or I don't know. I mean, Jimmy's talked about rebranding the name IOST before.
Yeah.
So they're thinking about this. The marketing team is thinking about kind of the best way to loop all of this in so that it's kind of this conglomeration of brands and projects and protocols and blockchains, right? You don't want to have so much going on that a new user comes in and goes, well, wait a minute, what's Oasis? What's IOST? Wait, but then there's Berm, but now we have these DApps. What the hell is going on, right? So I'm sure there's kind of like a larger plan to it. But yeah, we'll get some sort of rebrand from Oasis. I don't know if it's that on block. Was that the name of the? There was something that came out about like an on-block
working with Endless
concept.
Dice.
Yeah, with Endless stuff.
So that might end up being the actual rebrand. On block might be the rebrand for Oasis. So we don't know for sure yet, but that's kind of a guess that we have had based on all the information that we've been seeing online.
Right. So
yeah. So tell us about your article. I know you there were a lot of Back to Future references, or Back to the Future references that I saw. If you could kind of go through that article, summarize it real quick. You don't have to read it line by line, but yeah, tell us about Oasis. Tell us your thoughts on Oasis, as well as where you think Oasis is going from here on block.
Yeah, man, definitely. So, the Back to the Future thing, got to keep it cheeky, right? Got to keep it interesting because the article is a little long. Apologies on that front. But basically, I wanted to take the context of kind of proof of stake and delegated proof of stake, and especially for those newer cryptocurrency users, kind of break out the necessary context so that people can understand why Oasis is so important and could be so big for IOST and DApps, right? So if you kind of look through the history of it, which is where I started in the article, way back in, I think 2012 was the first time we saw any sort of proof of stake, consensus mechanism emerge. Peercoin was the first, I think, and then it really kind of bloomed from there.
Peercoin making an appearance.
Yeah, and there's an interesting coin market cap, snapshot there. I think the earliest was in 2013, where there was like literally only 9 coins.
Let's
Bitcoin, Litecoin, yeah.
Peercoin, Namecoin, TerraCoin, DevCoin, and NovaCoin.
Right.
So RIP, like more than half of that list.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, basically Bitcoin and Litecoin are the ones that have survived.
Look at Bitcoin's market cap, 1.5 mil.
1.5 mil. Yeah, so.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, so it was an interesting time back then. Obviously ETH came up and pretty much was the first real big success when it comes to proof of stake. But I think there was kind of a catalyst moment for other proof of stake related protocols at both the point when the DAO was hacked for ETH, and then also at the point with CryptoKitties and the EOS token sale. Both of which really showed ETH users in the general kind of crypto public that there were going to be scalability issues.
Yeah, we were like directly a part of that. I remember being at the ICO Alert offices, and me and Rob were like all into CryptoKitties. I had my like spreadsheet of like how I was going to make $1 million on CryptoKitties.
Yep. Yeah, dude. That was nuts back then. Everybody was the transactions were crazy through that. Everybody was breeding as fast as they can, trying to get that lucky chicken or whatever the hell it was through CryptoKitties. But that was kind of those two events were the first two giant chinks in ETH's armor, and you saw BitShares come up. That was a little before ETH, around the same time. But then obviously kind of the second wave of projects being your EOS and your Tron as the major two ones across 2017 and 2018. Both of those grew in popularity. Now you have IOST, who is really that top 3, top 4 blockchain protocol right now. If you're kind of using some account level metrics or transaction level metrics, obviously I think IOST can do a lot better than EOS, Tron, and ETH, especially with the Oasis integration, which is what I break out past that kind of boring little history lesson there.
Yeah.
And it's important, right? It's important to have that context to understand, okay, these are where previous protocols have succeeded, and then these are where previous protocols have struggled.
So you specifically talked about the RAM issue that's happening on EOS. We know that EOS Rex is coming out. We know that Chintai obviously exists, and you said Tron has inability, or has had the inability of gaining trust, at least within the Western kind of user base. Is that?
Yeah.
Can you break that out?
Yeah. If you had to break out the biggest cons of those two projects, right? Tron being the first. Trust has always been one that they've struggled with.
Tron.
Tron.
Okay.
They've come a long way. But if you kind of go back in time again, Tron lost a lot of faith in the community whenever the white paper plagiarism stuff came out, and they've never really done a good job of being transparent. They've kind of shuffled a lot of stuff under the rug, and that happens, right? It's a mistake, it's a con, it's whatever you want to call it. From there, they've done a lot, right? BitTorrent was big. Justin Sun has done a lot to kind of try to build that trust in the ecosystem, but they continue to have those trust issues, right? Like the Tesla giveaway.
We had a guy in our comment section when we were talking about our 30k IOST value. Some guy in the comment section, because I think we were saying like, stay tuned for our announcement at 12. He was like, an announcement of an announcement. So
that's mostly just us being unorganized. So
I mean, there's nothing wrong with building hype around an announcement.
Of course.
The problem is when you follow that up with giving away a fake Tesla to some guy. That's the issue.
Yeah, that was the issue there. So I mean, that's that's just one con to the many pros that exist with Tron, right? So it's no project is ever going to be perfect, but you have to go through and you have to evaluate both pros and cons. So I think that's been the biggest issue for Tron. For EOS, I would say the biggest issue has been the resource management problems that they've had, where as it launched, RAM was something that dApps needed to basically access storage on the EOS blockchain, but because RAM is or was frequently traded on third-party markets or secondary exchanges, then you had speculators, you had bad actors who came in and pumped or dumped the price, especially at the beginning, that then kind of brought up big concerns with how much it costs dApps to build on EOS.
Yeah,
right?
to kind of maintain the DAP, as far as if you're getting a certain amount of transactions, in order to maintain the almost like CPU that's coming through the DAP, correct?
Yeah, so your CPU, your net, your RAM, CPU and net, as far as I know on EOS are they regenerate, right? They're kind of rechargeable, but RAM is a little trickier.
Okay.
Yeah, and these exist on IOST as well, right? They're under a different setup. It's not CPU, net, and RAM. It's iGas and iRAM. And to be clear, it's not an issue with just the resource setup in general. I think it's an issue with details and kind of some incentive models that weren't super aligned in EOS, right? So again, that setup where RAM can be traded on the secondary exchanges, it just allows for incentive models to be skewed, where now I'm a trader, I'm a speculator, even if I'm somebody who believes in EOS, if I can go and make 10x on this RAM, 20x on this RAM, which a ton of people did, they're going to do it, right? They're going to buy it up, they're going to hoard it, especially understanding there's a super finite amount relative to the price. So I think IOST has done a good job thus far with RAM and ensuring that doesn't happen, where yes, you have to go out and purchase that RAM, but if you resell it, you can never resell it for a cost more than what you purchased it for. So it's those little details, right? Which kind of go back to the broader Oasis article of saying, hey, here are the pros of these previous protocols, here are the cons, right? How can we utilize these pros as much as possible through proof of believability? How can we eliminate these cons as much as possible? And that's just innovation, right? That's just people looking at the problems that projects have had before and fixing
it's evolution.
Yeah,
definitely. So let's turn it towards Oasis now. You specifically kind of go into each category that Oasis was kind of covering. So that is probably exemption of account registration. This is interesting because it's a private key, holding private keys. This has always been like one of the calling cards of crypto in general. It's not your keys, not your coin, correct? Right. Yeah. So go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, that's as I said in the article, that's one I'm most excited about, because writing down private keys and storing those safely is a huge pain in the ass, but also one that I'm kind of most nervous about, right? Because that is something that Oasis and IOST are going to have to be really careful with to ensure, it's not pulling too much control out of their base cryptocurrency audience, which generally cares about private key management. So there's a balance, right? There's a balance between onboarding new mainstream users, but also not pulling away from kind of those philosophical underpinnings.
Yeah, and we haven't seen a DAP actually. The CryptoKitties was the closest, and I don't even think it was that close to what we're trying to accomplish, which is bringing outside users, non-crypto, non-blockchain, community members into, crypto via dApps. That's the goal, but we haven't actually seen that yet through any dApps.
Right, yeah, 100%. So, whether it's the private key storage, registering of the IOST account, eliminating the resource consumption problem, all the things that Oasis has laid out and that I talk about in the article. It's important to know, and just to kind of wrap a bow on this, it'll be interesting to see what that integration can do for usability for the mainstream user, right? Because one thing we didn't touch on with Berm is that, together across Berm and Berminal, they have 3 million users, right? So that's a ton of users that now we can pitch over to other dApps on IOST, current or new in the future. But in order to do that, they have to be set up just like Berm and Berminal are. Super easy, right?
So here's my question to you. We're about to go to break, but I want to throw this question your way. Bermie's already an existing app coming into blockchain.
Yep.
Do you think that the answer then is to bring apps that already exist into crypto? Or do you think it's let's develop these new apps and within crypto or within blockchain and bring users in? Which one is it? Because it seems like the easiest, the path of least resistance is let's take this already existing app and bring it in. Yeah,
well, it's definitely... It seemingly is the most successful, right?
Okay.
That's why Berm and Berminal have had so much success, because they haven't built the app for the blockchain or for the current users. They've built it, as they would build a regular app, right? If it wasn't on blockchain. So now it's not necessarily the easiest path. It's probably the most successful long-term path, because you can build users first. You can build what's most valuable first, and then introduce those users once they're comfortable with your app
to the
taste. Blockchain. Yeah. Versus just pulling away users from other cryptocurrency dApps.
Got it.
The user base in crypto is so small. So we obviously want to capture that cryptocurrency user base, but relative to the mainstream, that's where all the growth is, right? That's where all the
Got
users.
it. Interesting discussion. Well, we'll take a break here and we'll see you guys on the other end. All right, we're back with the second part of this episode 5 of the IOST podcast. We're going to jump right into it. So we had the DAP tier list that came out on the Sutler Ventures blog recently. I think it was about a week ago. I'm going to be doing these in bi-weekly segments. I think that's just the best way to go about it. That way I can get you guys the quality of information. But the version 1.0 came out, I believe, a week ago, and it featured a tier list of A, B, C, D, and F rankings for the dApps that are currently in the ecosystem. Not all of them. I think I covered like 3/4. But I did have the dApps here. They're Endless Dice, Token Pocket, IOST Play, iWallet, Mango Dice, IOST Joy, Cell Evolution, and IOST ROI.
Got it. Where did they all kind of fall? What are in the tier list A?
Yeah, so tier list A actually ended up being Endless Dice, Token Pocket, and IOST Play. For various reasons. I think Endless Dice obviously came over from EOS, so they kind of have their chickens all in a row, or ducks all in a row. I think, did I mess that up completely?
Chickens, ducks,
Chickens and ducks, yeah, close. But they kind of have their ducks in a row. I think I have to do some research on how that actually works with the token model. They can't technically like restart that entire mining rate.
Right.
So I have to do a little bit of looking at that token economic model and seeing if it's as incentivized as I thought it was.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And their transactions and user numbers are by and far the highest. If you go to DAP.com and select the IOST filter, Endless Games #1, followed by IOST Play at #2. But 24-hour users is about 2,500 for Endless Game. Whereas most of the other dApps are still under 100 or haven't actually been played yet. 24-hour transactions for Endless are at about 80,000, with their volume at about 35 million. So, they're well up there as the best. They kind of got a head start.
Yeah, they did.
Having worked with EOS, obviously. But Ray and the Endless team have done a really good job there.
Yeah, so essentially their platform can be switched between IOST and EOS. So it's the same actual website, it's the same platform, but you would be able to switch between IOST and EOS. I don't see this as a negative for any, a gambling dApp, especially to be using. If you can open like another faucet, essentially, then I don't see that as a negative. I don't see why more dApps aren't doing this. We'll have to talk to the team about how hard it was to actually port or start to integrate IOST.
Yeah, 100%. We're looking to have Ray on a podcast in a few weeks here, so if we
love to talk to him.
We can grab him. We'll definitely hit that question. But yeah, I mean, it's the same thing we saw with EOS, right? Tons of gambling dApps popping up. I think the biggest question for Endless and IOST Play is once that mining or staking incentive, assuming there is one, once that disappears, what do users look like?
Yep.
Right? Because that's something that others have had issues with, where as soon as the mining or staking incentive starts to kind of fall off that cliff, users will, as you said, hit that next faucet, hit that next DAP.
Yep, and we talked with IOST Play, which I'll talk about in a second. But we talked to IOST Play, I think a couple days ago, and one of their main points was saying that you don't want to get away from that token model, right? Like of incentivizing volume and mining and all these things, but you need to stay away from the pump and dump models that we saw in that end of 2018 kind of cycle, where you saw some DApps. I mean, they literally a week or two, because they set those mining rates to be so abhorrent, essentially.
Right.
But if you can do that same model and tweak it a little bit and have it more incentivized for the long term, you can still have success.
Yeah. And basically what they said, IOST Play said in talking to us, is that the most important thing in their mind is that you have to line up the staking or mining setup along with the development of the project, right? You don't want to give everything away when there's barely anything going on. You want to spread it out over time so that you can build that real organic user base as you go.
Yep, exactly. And so we'll go into IOST Play here. IOST Play actually is really smooth to me. That was one of the reasons they, kind of had that A ranking, was because on mobile and desktop, all three of their games are smooth. Now it's a gambling DApp. There's not much there's not much complexity to it. Right. Obviously, there's 3 games. There's a dice game, a ring game, and a limbo game, and these are all just different ways to gamble. One of the reasons why Endless Dice at the time of the tier list actually was ahead of IOST Play was because their dividends weren't set up. So IOST Play's dividends, I don't believe they're set up now. They might. It looks like they've now been set up. So their dividends are set up, but at the time of the actual tier list, the dividends for Endless Dice were live and the dividends for IOST Play weren't. So that was one of the reasons why Endless was kind of above IOST Play. So it's good to see that those dividends are set up. I think they're still on the first round of mining. So it's a good time to get in, as far as if you're looking to do these for mining purposes, staking purposes, all things considered.
Yeah, and obviously the market has been booming here over the last few weeks, but if we slow down at all, I think we'll start to see kind of more of this albeit gambling but somewhat fixed income setup that everybody liked in 2018 in the depths of the bear market, because you could take some EOS or you could take some Tron or whatever, allocate it to some of these dApps in this staking mining setup, and and make some money while the base token Tron or EOS just continue to get crushed. So we'll see. I like putting those 3 up there. I mean, Token Pocket is the 3rd one in tier A, is a fantastic app. Yeah,
they allowed for account creation. They were one of the first to allow for account creation. That wasn't just an email and a password on BIS. So they allowed for voting. They allowed for account creation. They have a cool DApp Explorer. They're on mobile. So that was definitely a lock at tier A.
Yeah, and I think the coolest thing within Token Pocket is probably that you can play a lot of those dApps from the app.
Yep.
Right. So I mean, that's just, you've got your wallet there, right? You can vote for IOST nodes there, and then you can also play the dApps. You're ahead of the game on the wallet front.
Yeah, you can pretty much do anything as far as wallets are concerned. They have permissions in there, so you can revoke and accept permissions on that actual mobile interface. So that's why those are pretty much the top 3. I think they stand out among the rest. B ended up being iWallet. The only reason they ended up there, because they do have a pretty smooth interface there. You can vote, you can manage resources within this Chrome extension. The only reason it ends up in B is, 1, it's a Chrome extension, so it's more of a hot wallet. 2, it actually was created by a bounty, but there's not much, and I know this, there's not much transparency around who's actually maintaining this. Is it the IOST team? Is it that original dev creator? I honestly don't have those answers. So if they end up becoming more transparent and we find out who's behind this, if it's the IOST team, you might see those we might see iWallet in that A tier.
Right. Yeah, I would guess it's the team, but yeah, it's kind of one of those that I think Token Pocket is just kind of pushed out, right? Everybody seems to be utilizing Token Pocket as the number one place to store and vote and all that.
Yep. So we moved down to C. Mango Dice. Mango Dice is a gambling DApp. There were some translation issues, kind of lazy translation issues, where there was just like some parts of the DApp where it was still Chinese and some not translated well.
Yeah.
So kind of lazy on their part. I don't like to see that from a team that needs to have their stuff together if they want to get users.
Yeah.
But pretty standard gambling DApp that you see across all protocols. So that's why they end up in C.
Gotcha.
IOST Joy. I know I've played that here with you. There was some latency issues. I think since then I've been able to play IOST Joy and not have those latency issues. My only problem is you can't see who's actually playing the DApp with you. So what they have in IOST Joy is like 4 separate categories. You have this beginner mode that costs 5 IOST, and then you go up to novice, you go to intermediate, and you go to advanced, and you pay more and more. So if you say go into a DApp or go into one of the, like say you go to intermediate, if you're with other people, you can run it. That person can run into that snake. So essentially, the snake game works is the more little dots you pick up, the bigger your snake grows.
Right.
You have a certain amount of time to gain more snakes. So let's say you started with 50, your snake starts at like 25, and you have 4 minutes to get past 50, or else you lose 1 or 2 or whatever. But if you die, you lose all of it. The problem is IOST Joy doesn't have a very good, at least I didn't see it, a very good way of explaining the instructions to a user, right? As a beginner mode with 5 IOST, if you run into anything, you don't die. But once you go to the next one, so I'm over here playing the beginning thing, I made like 1 or 2 IOST because I got my snake a little bit big. But then I moved on to the next one, 50, and I'm over there and I run into a wall, and I just blow up and lose 50 IOST.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
So there's some interface issues there. The game seems to be working fine now, so it might move up to C, but there's still some issues with being able to explain the game completely to English-speaking users.
Yeah, and English-speaking, Spanish-speaking, German-speaking, whatever, right? That's super key. We were talking about that last podcast, I think, about how sometimes like the simplest things like translation are super key. So yeah, that's an app. I remember seeing that. It looks awesome. It looks promising. But yeah, we need some upgrades there.
And then IOST ROI got our F tier ranking. That pretty much is a Ponzi scheme. It's essentially the more users you invite and give that referral link, the more money that you're making.
Yep.
It's pretty straightforward with how much of a data. We can even read the description here. Let's go to,
if it's even it might not even be,
it's there, and people are playing, and there is some volume. IOST ROI is an open source ROI game that guarantees 100% transparency and fairness to all players.
That's never good.
When you deposit in IOST, you can start to withdraw every minute as long as there's money in the contract. You can withdraw 5% of your deposit every day until the investment matures. You can deposit more money at any time to get higher returns.
All right.
For each deposit, the contract will allocate 5% to the referral, 5% to the platform developer, and 3% for promotion and marketing fees. So
you got to be careful with these, for sure.
Yeah, and to be fair, the team has been pretty open with explaining that this is open source protocol.
Right.
Anybody can build on IOST. They don't have the authority to say no, you cannot build on IOST. But I'm glad the team has come out and actually talked about what needs to be talked about as far as games developing.
Yeah, kind of gave the beware, kind of said, hey, we're not going to like kick these guys off in some sort of centralized way, obviously.
True.
But yeah, you got to be careful out there, right? If it's too good to be true, it probably is. And that's good that they're in the F tier because of that.
Cool. So I'll release that DAP tier ranking next week. I believe it'll be sometime around Monday of this next upcoming week. That will have risers and movers, so the ones that are already on there that we just talked about, as well as a couple additions, including Crypto Ninjas, probably IOST Bid. There's a couple that I need to add onto that DAP tier list, but for right now, that's what it is. Please leave comments in the comment section of this video, as well as kind of tweet out anything that you want to see as far as the DAP tier rankings go.
Yeah, Crypto Derby is one I'm interested in.
Crypto Derby.
There's another one that's looks like it's got the second highest users, IOST Bank. So it doesn't come up as a gambling DApp. It comes up as high risk. So we'll see if this one might be another IOST ROI.
You're gonna send me into the fire, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, we'll move on to the next category here. It's going to be just talking about token price. I know it's been a struggle over the last couple of days. We saw that obviously, I would say pump in a certain sense from mainnet, and then kind of over the last 48 hours in the blink of an eye, we've seen a lot of from that dip.
Yeah, for sure. And shout out Dimitri. So he's not with us here today, obviously. That sounded morbid.
Hit him with it.
But no,
he's not here with us today.
He'll be back moving forward. He's in New York City.
We lost him. He longed IOST.
No longer with us.
He put it on leverage.
Shout out Dima. He's in New York City this week taking some meetings. Essentially, before we talk about IOST price, we saw about 14 hours ago from recording, we did hit some milestones as far as trying to measure adoption or growth as best we can. We hit 250,000 accounts on IOST that have been set up, and then we also hit I think 35 million transactions, 25 million transactions, something like that. So again, anytime we're talking about token price, you really have to understand context in two formats, right? You have to understand context of IOST, right? How effective is that token price of showing the growth and adoption and kind of effort or involvement going on within the IOST community, right? And then the second piece of context you have to look at is the overall market. So, looking at these account numbers, looking at these transaction volume numbers, understanding these aren't a perfect representation of adoption, looking at those and looking at the overall growth of the community, what IOST has coming with Oasis at the end of this month, beginning of next month, general range there. That dip is not, in my opinion, indicative of some sort of like disaster going on with IOST, right?
It's not investment advice, but yeah,
of course it's not investment advice, right? But at the beginning of kind of this big wave with mainnet, from that point, IOST has been relatively perfect in my mind, right? As far as keeping the growth coming, keeping the announcements coming. Communication within the community has been really good by Jimmy and Ray and others. So, on that context front, there's really nothing to worry about. If you check your crypto and hadn't checked it in a week or so, and then all of a sudden you're down 50% from the all-time high here over the last few months, don't freak out, right?
Yep.
Everything's cool. The other piece of context, if you look at the overall market, we saw and still continue to see Bitcoin rise, right? So obviously we hit that 5K number. We hit 5,200 pretty quick. And then we jumped all the way up to 5,600 at least, right? So, things tend to not just kind of go and go and go forever, right? We learned that in the bear market the hard way. But there's going to be those periods of retracement, right? There's going to be those folks, retail or otherwise, who if they're traders or holders or whatnot, right? If they're actively managing their crypto, they're going to kind of pull out at highs and try to get in at lows. So I think we're just seeing a little bit of that. We're seeing some retracement. Altcoins went crazy, over the last 2 weeks. So we've seen some pullback there. I think IOST got hit the most because it's one of the fresher altcoins. Yeah,
Bitcoin dominance is always an interesting topic to talk about, and decoupling, this term that's used to kind of explain how Bitcoin runs the market and how at one point we need to see one of these altcoins, essentially, if we're calling it, is Ethereum an altcoin?
Yeah, I'd say you could still call Ethereum an altcoin. I mean, it's the least altcoin of all of them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So at what point are we going to see a decoupling? Because we know that Bitcoin runs the market. It's essentially king, right? So at one point is, Bitcoin not going to be able to say, hey, I'm rising today. All alts come with me, and hey, I'm feeling like a 5% dip. Altcoins, you're going 10-15% dip.
Right, exactly. That seems to be generally the case. I mean, certainly there are times in the market when it's not one for one. I think that's what happened a little bit on this latest move for altcoins down.
Yeah.
I think altcoins grabbed a bit of a higher return than Bitcoin over the last 2-3 weeks, and Bitcoin really hasn't moved that much to like 54.35 in US dollar price.
Okay.
Whereas alts are obviously down anywhere from probably 10 to 18%. So we do get a little bit of that decoupling, but as far as like a major decoupling where Bitcoin could be down 5% and IOST could be up 20 or Zcash could be up 30 or whatever, right? It's still really hard because Bitcoin is the leader, right? It's got the giant first mover advantage. It has all the benefits that it brings. It's the patron saint of cryptocurrency, basically.
Yeah.
You know, it's been around for a lot longer. It has that experience where these altcoins don't. So it's going to take a lot before we see that decoupling, which is, you know, like I said, why that context of the overall market is important.
What's your thought process about using Bitcoin in like a pseudo kind of stable coin, where you see that 20% gain on your altcoin, and then, hey, like, I'm trying to move into something a little bit more stable. Let me throw it into Bitcoin as a way to, you know, stabilize the growth that I had.
Yeah, 100%. And that's generally what happens whether you want to do it or not, because most of these stable coins don't have USD trading pairs, right?
Got it.
So because generally most of them have Bitcoin trading pairs, if you see a stable Bitcoin like we do right now, you know, quote unquote stable, relatively stable, where it's having trouble or not having trouble supporting that like 5350 number, it's hanging around the 5400s, 5450, but altcoins are bleeding. Traders are going to move into that BTC, in the same way that if everything's bleeding, right? If Bitcoin starts getting hurt, alts have been bleeding. Like I said, if there are no USD trading pairs, you have to move into Bitcoin first before you move into that stable coin or you move into fiat. So,
Got it.
Yeah,
cool.
So it'll be interesting. You know, there's we obviously haven't seen some sort of event that would warrant IOST down 45% or whatnot. So like I said, if you're just kind of reopening your app here over the last week or two, you know, you're not missing anything. Just kind of the normal up and down that you see in crypto. So
awesome. Well, we talked a little token price. Let's kind of finish up and wrap up this episode. We are going to be at New York City Blockchain Week. I think it's the week of the 13th through the 17th. Yep. Is that correct?
Yep.
I believe me and Dimitri both have birthdays that week, so it'll be a fun little week we got planned.
That's gonna be wild then. 2 birthdays to celebrate.
Exactly. So, you want to give the listeners out there kind of a take about what we're doing there? I don't think we're actually attending Consensus. Nah. We don't feel like paying those absorbent ticket prices that's happening right now.
Yeah, you can get a lot of IOST for $1,300.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever it is. So yeah, we won't be at Consensus, but we're definitely going there, taking some meetings, hitting some meetups, some ones that we're definitely going to that are always great that we've enjoyed in New York City. If you're looking to make the trip or you're based out of there, are done by a company called Crypto Oracle. So shout out Crypto Oracle. They have something, and this runs every week. It's not just Blockchain Week. They have something called Crypto Mondays, and then they also will likely have a Crypto Tuesdays as well, where Crypto Mondays is just basically a crypto networking event where you can go if you're formally in the industry, if you're just an enthusiast, you know, you're a holder, whatever. You get a mixed range of people, everybody from people who manage family offices all the way down to just enthusiasts and holders within crypto. So those are 2 events we'll be at. Definitely the Crypto Mondays, and as there are other kind of networking events out there, we'll make sure to get some tweets out. You guys can come say what's up. We can talk IOST, all that fun stuff.
That's awesome, man. And we're also going to try to get Ray on the podcast while we're up there if we can. So Ray, if you're listening, let's get that podcast scheduled. Otherwise, we'll be talking to you soon. As far as this episode goes, I think that pretty much wraps it up, man. That was a solid, girthy episode. That's the first time a podcast has ever been called girthy, but
hey, man, it was good. We had a lot happen, right? The
Yeah.
week before there wasn't that much, but this week we saw some good action. I'm super excited to see when this Oasis drops. I believe Jimmy said something in a tweet or an AMA about it being towards the end of this month or May. So come next week, we might have Oasis out,
or
on block,
or something else.
Fill in the name.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thanks for obviously listening to this podcast. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on SoundCloud. Leave your comments, man. We want to hear how we can continue to increase the quality of this podcast for you guys. So thank you as well to the community that is voting for us. The contribution rewards, I believe, should already be with you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know they hit us, so they should be hitting you guys soon.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome.
Later, guys.